something different today. It's just me, Sundi, your resident pop culture professor. This is But I'll Take a Pinot Grigio podcast, and this is our OC Corner. We started out doing it, and Emily wasn't really all that interested, and Jeff filled in, but it's not really his jam. But so many people were interested in listening and watching our recaps of it. I thought I would just spend a few minutes every week checking in with our resident OGs. This is, like I said, But I'll Take a Pinot Grigio. This is the Real Housewives of Orange County, season 20, episode 3. Why can't we be friends? And if you have been around since the beginning of time, like I have in the OC, I think we all know why none of these women can be friends. And it starts with a T and rhymes with Tamara. But to catch you up, the last time that we were chatting, we had the old lady party. It was old lady down, and it was Emily's 50th, which damn doesn't she look great. She looks so good. And I'm not even talking about her like recent body changes and weight loss. She just looks so great. Is it because she's about to divorce Shane? To be continued. The Trace Amigas are no more, which Carmela is kind of a party. I think I might like her. I need you guys to come at me. Since I'm by myself, I have no one to rebut my ridiculous opinions. So definitely come back at me. And what are we doing behind each other's back? It's sort of the running theme for not only this show, but all of the shows across the board. And to do a little business, this is, of course, OC, but we are also covering Vintage Vanderpump. So if you came for the OC coverage, please go back and find our Vintage Vanderpump. We are in the middle of season 5, which if you guys know anything about Vanderpump Rules, you know that this is super, super fun times. They are at their New Orleans co-bachelorette bachelor trip for Katie and Tom, and this is the one where they're in drag. So you remember, he's an abused woman, where Tom slams open the door. So that's where we are there. We are also covering the McBee dynasty, such as it is. They are all over the news right now. So Noel and I have covered seasons 1 and 2 so far. Those are in 2 parts each. And you will have, by the time you hear this, we will be working on our season 3 drop for Monday. So come back for that. Then upcoming next week, Jeff and I are going to be covering the House of Stassi. And this is Bravo adjacent. It's not a Bravo show, but it is all of the folks that we know and love from this particular moment. Not all of them. It's Stassi, her husband, Beau, Katie, Christina Kelly, Stassi's sisters, all of that. And of course, we traded in OC, Emily and I did, for the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip. The initials are so long, I always stumble over it, which starts August 9th, in which they are kind of celebrating the franchise turning 20. And so they're doing a road trip, and they're going to different cities, and they're visiting different housewives from each city. We get Nene Leakes, who I'm absolutely the most excited about. Put Nene Leakes and Vicky Gunvalson in a room and just let them duke it out till the end. My money on Nene Leakes. But anyway, Jeff said something the other day after we had finished, and he was talking about Heather looks like Wendy Malick. If you don't know who that is, Google her, obviously, but she is on that show Shrinking right now. She was previously on Hot in Cleveland. She's been in a lot of stuff. I think she was also on Veronica's Closet, but it really does. She has the same kind of posture, the same kind of like bone structure. So that was a really good call. Shout out to Jeff for bringing that to my attention, because I've been watching it for 20 years and it's the first that occurred to me. But so we do check in with Tamara, packing up Sophia to go to not LA, but to a house down the street near her boyfriend, Nico. Okay. And now it's time. She says that she's been raising children for 40 years, which I know it maybe can seem like that, but how old is her son, Ryan? Isn't that his name, Ryan? Like is he 40? Tamara's 58. So I guess he could be in and around there, but this is her last one to leave. And we know that she's been plagued with problems with her other teenage daughter. And so now she's kind of like feeling good about getting the last of the one out of the house. And she's going to nurture her husband and their relationship. And she's wanting to have Woodstock sex. I'm going to tell you, after we got our eyes burned out by the bathtub scene in those early days, I think we're all set on the Woodstock sex with Tamara. Am I right? Ladies, am I right? To quote my dear pod mentor, Danny Pellegrino, who also does a recap of this, but listen to ours first. He's funny and much more successful, but you're already here. So then we go to the gym with Emily. Now, I really appreciate Emily's hard work. I do. But I really hope that we do not have to watch this woman work out and count her calories and talk about her macros or do her woo-woo Dr. Tim shit the entire rest of the season. I'm happy for her, but that becomes boring pretty quick. And we know that there's something brewing with Shane. So let's get to that too. But Shannon turns up and she's been going to Dr. Tim for a long time. I think he's into some kind of holistic stuff. He does this weird chiropractic thing with Shannon, in which, of course, she's always going to pratfall and the hijinks and the slapstick of it all, which I'm telling you right now, I heard something. This is just between me, you, and the chickens and TikTok, that someone behind the scenes says that she is the absolute most monstrous of all the housewives, the most narcissistic, most miserable castmate. And then when the cameras flip on, that she just changes and is a completely different person. So I don't know if I believe that. I do feel like there is a fair amount of calculation in how Shannon shows up in front of the camera. And as you can see, this particular persona has evolved more and more in the last few years. I mean, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, we weren't seeing Shannon's Spanx every other episode. She's kind of fallen into that, especially after all of her troubles with John and the DUI and all that kind of stuff. So maybe this is her way of kind of, rehabbing the image a little bit, but whatever. She screams chicken meatballs too. Apparently that's a thing, whatever. But Emily takes this time here to kind of tell Shannon a story about her and Tamara's reconciliation. Now, if you remember, it was kind of a tense truce that they came to. Tamara was saying a lot of mean stuff about Emily's podcast, which from, one podcaster to another, I won't say anything. I will say I haven't listened to Emily's. But with this new one that they're doing, this true crime, and I might have to check it out too. But we all know Tamara's juggernaut of a podcast, 2 T's in a pod, is really kind of her calling card right now. She's fairly successful in that. And so I think that she's kind of wielding that over Emily in that's a power situation. So yeah, whatever. But Shannon was biting her tongue the whole time. Now remember, Shannon and Tamara are beefing. Nothing like a friend breakup to really go south like this, because they were the Tres Amigas. It was her, Vicky, and Tamara for a really long time. And so then once Shannon had her troubles, things just got nasty. And I'm not going to recap all of that. Y'all go back and watch the last 2 seasons. It gets pretty dark and Shannon gets a lot of heat, rightfully so. But there's a couple of strings that Tamara is plucking. She's broke, she's a drunk, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, Shannon suggests that Tamara wielding this podcast stuff over Emily is just her way to remind Emily that, I'm up here, you're down there. Kelly Ben Simone style here, where it's I'm up here, you're down there. But, meanwhile, we're watching Tamara kind of work out Sophia's new apartment. It's really cute. And I was like, I think Sophia's style is really cute. I was wondering hey, do we have the same style? Cool. I'm same as a 20-year-old. Okay. And she has exponentially more money than I am. But Vicky is committed to getting the Tres Amigas back. Now, here's a question, folks. Weigh in on this. By all means, I forgot to say this at the beginning, but go to the social medias at Take a Pinot Pod on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, and also too, you can always rate and review us. And if you want, just, you can just leave who's your favorite housewife and what show you're most watching right now. And if you want to rate us a 5-star, and then you can always email Jeff at Pinot Pod. But I think this is a calculation on Vicky's part because she understands that was the height of these women's popularity on the show, that together they are a much more watchable entity than they are separately and fighting. Because as we know, this show will dine out on a fight for weeks and weeks and weeks. And this is what I'm afraid is happening with Jen and Heather, that Jen has sort of created this nothing burger and is asking us to have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. And she's outmatched with Heather. And I'm hoping that she can kind of turn that around. But Vicky is Vickying and just kind of bullying Shannon, be like, yes, come to lunch. And I'm just, Shannon sucks, Tamara sucks, Vicky sucks, they all suck. Just have boundaries in the talk. And later we see them go to the quiet woman, which, why would you pick the quiet woman, people? Are you just trying? That's like naming your boat Titanic. Just don't do it. Let's just all kind of have a little bit of memory and not participate in this collective amnesia. But speaking of Jen, and we see her husband is named Ryan, and hopefully I'm not going to mix up these folks because he looks like her Jersey Shore uncle came to town and she's having to like cart him around. This man is so tan and so tight and just swollen like a bee stung. I mean, I hate to be mean, but I just don't know. But also, did you know he had a daughter? Kyler is her name. Maybe I missed it because I kind of dipped in and out on every episode in the last couple of seasons. But yeah, he has a daughter. And so now, this is why I think it's the first time that we're hearing of it, because now he's using the existence of this daughter to claim some kind of authority about fatherhood. And Jen needs to be more aware of the absence of their father and like the wreckage of that divorce that they had. And Jen is like, look, man, calm your tits. Not everything is about Will. And I have some more to say about this too, but Nolan and I always joke about how much is made about divorce and how, like, when you're watching a true crime documentary and they're talking about like the world's worst serial killer, the very first thing they said is like, well, everything was fine until his parents divorced. And that's why he went on this killing spree, murdering women across the Eastern Seaboard and all of this. And so it's kind of a joke. I think this is kind of leaning into that trope a little bit, that divorce is the absolute worst thing that can happen to a child. And let me tell you, it's not. You know what the worst thing that can happen to a child is having parents that hate each other and are actively contemptuous with each other. That's the worst thing. But Ryan believes that fathers should show up. And damn, Ryan, why didn't I think of that? Well, I guess you just solved the absent fatherhood crisis. Thank you very much for existing, Mr. Jersey Shore. Fuck off. Whatever. We head over to Wendy Malick's house, Heather, of course, and we do get a little cameo from Dr. Dubrow here. Speaking of pulled tight, oof. But I think it's charming that Heather's eating a pickle. I don't know why. I love that. Shout out to Jeff and his pickle business. But then Heather's kind of bummed that Jen is making all of this business. And she takes issue over this phrase, historical friend. Is that an insult? I mean, I have some very specifically historical friends. I've had friends like Emily and I, as a matter of fact, have been friends since we were in middle school almost. I'm a little older than her. She will quickly remind you, but that's not an insult. And all of the things that they're trying to accuse Heather of like putting so-and-so in a box and being a historical friend or compartmentalizing it, these are not insults. These are grown-up tactics that you can use to interact with your longtime coworkers, which is what these people are to her. Okay. And then they go from one dumb shit fight to another where Emily talks about Carmela's present, where she gave her a Dior bag, which, okay, swag, but inside the bag is a vibrator. Who cares? Who cares? Emily's trying to plant this seed of, is it, was she really giving me a gift, or was she just trying to like achieve the attention and the clout and the money, the Dior bag? Who cares? Okay. This woman obviously has money. Carmela has money from wherever she got it, from wherever it came from. She's got it. Listen, a pedo pod out there, if you would like to send me a Dior bag with or without a vibrator, I will happily accept it and I will be a gracious recipient. Like, Emily, what are you doing? I mean, it's not a terrible gift, especially if it's brand new. But, you know, Terry comes in and, you know, if he moves too quickly, his face might slide off his skull, but whatever. Okay, so this is the pre-lunch, the Vicky, Gina, Jen pre-lunch to talk about the Trace Amigas lunch. This is kind of a motley crew, right? Vicky, Gina, and Jen. Like, I don't know. I think Jen might be too tender to be hanging out with Vicky. We know how Vicky can get. And I know Jen's not a new girl, but Gina can hold her own. And Vicky says, oh, I really like her now. I think she reminds her of Vicky or whatever. But I just don't know. Jen, you in danger, girl. You need to watch your back among these women because they will stab you and push you down the stairs before you can say boo to Uncle Jersey Shore over there. We do learn that not only is Vicky's love tank being filled up by a man with the same name as her son, but there is the potential to move this relationship to the next level and get married. Okay. But Mike is holding the ring hostage. I guess wait until she acts right. Sir, you're going to be holding that ring forever. Like, come on. But that's kind of a red flag. And they say it too. They're like, I don't know if I like that. And I don't know if I do either, Vicky, because it should be contingent on his perception of your behavior. Unless, and we know this could be true, she'd be acting crazy as Vicky does. But before talk gets too personal about her stuff, she wants to talk to them about this Trace Amiga lunch and how she plans on leading by example. I'll pause here for you guys to laugh and slap your knee a little bit. Vicky Gumbelson is going to lead by example. I don't know. And is this not talking behind Tamara's back when she talks about Tamara's behavior makes her really anxious and that she feeds on the chaos and that she needs it to be chaotic that way to just feel okay? Is that not talking behind Tamara's back? Is that if that gets back to Tamara, is that going to be another like breakup hurdle for the Trace Amigas? Like, I don't know. The rules are really shifting and we'll see. I mean, we know they get back together. I mean, spoiler alert, I'm getting there, but we know that the Trace Amigas have a very tense lunch at the Quiet Woman and they get back together. But I am real skeptical to buy this. And Carmela's house, I don't want to say anything about this vibrator business. I don't care, but she has a wild child. I think that if the child is named Faith, and we talked about this with our Love Island coverage, that you got to be real careful what you name your children here. I think Faith might be the wild child. She doesn't go to school. You know, she wants to get tan. She wanted to buy a ticket, whatever. She's just not going to school. And, you know, you're really putting it on, you're putting on a manifestation when you name your children. So, you know, whatever. And I just found Carmela to be fascinating. And I think her life is super interesting up to now and going forward. And I really want to learn more about her. I hope we don't get mired in the mud with the new girl hazing that is inevitably going to happen. Now we know that shit's going to happen, but I hope Carmela can hold her own enough to make it into a second season unscathed. Okay. Jen and Emily, new friends. There's a closet clean out. Uncle Jersey Shore is very particular about his clothes. There's a lot of pink, a lot of grandma section, a lot of black t-shirts, whatever. But we know Jen's having kid problems. Now, I want to be really careful talking about this too, because I don't want to undermine a mother's worry and a mother's anxiety, because everybody knows that nobody can worry themselves sick like a mother can. But she's really worried that something's happening with Grayson since the ticket. Now, remember, this child was going like 110 miles an hour and an 85 speed limit. Like, he was getting after it. Okay. And so she is correlating his withdrawal, him being in his room, with that ticket. And Emily kind of commiserates too, which I think this is a really good thing for Emily to share, because she talks about how her connection with Annabelle kind of waned a little when she was dealing with her son's problems and his like diagnosis and things, and that Annabelle was essentially a glass child. And I will not say that Nolan was a glass child, but Ethan just needed a lot more hands-on. It was a lot more hands-on parenting that I had to do. And because their age difference is 11 years, that, you know, I didn't get as much one-on-one time in Nolan's formative years as maybe I would have if I didn't have a small, high-needs toddler to do. So I do really commiserate with that. But, you know, Emily's advice was, you just got to be around. Sometimes you got to lay in the bed and watch TV with them. And I thought that was a really sweet way to kind of validate her feelings. And this episode is kind of chock full with a lot of schmaltzy moments. Like, we see Teddy and Tamara in the bed, and it was really quite upsetting to see Teddy kind of loss of vitality. Just remember, when her season, she wasn't like the super most well-liked housewife, but she was always really, really vibrant and really just kind of like a full of personality, whether you liked it or not. And you can see that the sickness is really taking a toll on her, whether it's brain tumor and all of that. But she's on her way back. And to hear Tamara tell it, now, you guys, if y'all have listened to Two Teas in a Pod, or you have more information about their friendship, maybe you can inform this. But to hear Tamara tell it, that this was one of the most important relationships in her life, and Teddy falling ill was one of the most impactful things that's ever happened to her. Is that true? Or do we buy that? I mean, I get it that they were business partners in the same way that, Jeff and I are business partners, and they are also really good friends. And I would be obviously devastated if I had to deal with a close friend that way. But for Tamara to pin all of her bad behavior on Teddy's illness feels a little unfair and a little too tightly wrapped up in a bow. Yeah. Like, I don't know, but I am so skeptical of Tamara anytime she tries to do a hero's turn, because we know what this woman is like. And I'm not saying I don't want her on my TV. I'm not saying she doesn't make for great television, but we understand how manipulative Tamara can be and how she is always approaching her scenes and her seasons from a producer's standpoint. So everything that she does is so cunning and so calculated that I'm always kind of just side eye holding my breath saying, okay, well, what is this for? And this is one of those instances where she kind of tries to say that everybody was being so mean to her and not excusing her shitty ass behavior because she was really worried about her friend. Well, you can be worried about your friend and not be the worst person in the fucking room, which apparently you can't. Okay. I don't know. Do I care anything about Travis and Gina? What is Travis's deal? Is he just a real slow motion kind of guy? He just really seems like everything is moving at 3/4 speed. No, Gina, I'll get the all you can eat muscles. It just feels like, they put him on 1.5 just to kind of get him there. There's this prenup talk. I'm not going to get on another prenup soapbox. If you want to hear my entire feelings about prenups, go back and listen to the mega mini crossover that we did yesterday about prenups. Also, go and listen to our Vanderpump Rules coverage about Katie and Tom getting a prenup. Also go back and listen to the McBee coverage about Jesse and Allie getting a prenup. Okay. I'm pro prenup. That's all you need to know. And I really applaud Gina too, because, she's no dummy. She's very successful. She's more successful than he is. And I think it's not a bad idea. I don't know enough about California law to understand what it would mean going forward once they get married, because don't they share like a real estate group, kind of like Mauricio, the agency light? Isn't that kind of what they're doing? But, and there's more talk about this woman hyphenating her name. Gina, if you're listening to me, I hope you didn't do it. That is too many letters. Speaking as a person who used to have a hyphenated last name, it causes a lot of problems. Your email is super weird. Your bank card is super weird. Your social security card is super weird. Nobody knows whether to call you the first or the end. Like it's just a strange. And when it's that many letters, Kirschenbauer, Mullen, you're just asking for trouble. And, well, also her kids don't care. And in my house, I've been married so many damn times that we just all keep our daddy's name. I got my daddy's last name. Nolan's got her daddy's last name. Ethan's got his daddy's last name. So problem solved. Carmela's vacuuming. Heather's looking at a Moldy Folder album. Shannon's giving her dumb dog pills. Could give a shit less. But then we get to this really heavy scene where Jen and Grayson are talking, and I have a sneaking suspicion that Jen might be kind of a hover round kind of mom. Just like, oh, are you okay? Oh, let me fix you a sandwich. Oh, are your socks dirty? Oh, do you want me to give you a back rub? I think that she's that kind of mom, because she has that kind of energy in which she's nervous in a way that is rattling, but she wants to check in. And my advice here is, I'm not really going to say much about it other than I think, Jen, you might need to have a conversation with this young man off camera. He seems like he's struggling with something that he does not want to say on your reality TV show. Yes, of course, he misses his dad. Yes, of course, it's hard to reconcile a new normal, but this child needs a private conversation with you and possibly a professional. I'm not diagnosing or anything, but I just can't imagine having to talk to my mother about something deeply, deeply personal in which everyone is watching. And we all know what kind of fans we are. We know what the housewife fans are. They are brutal, and they can be so judgmental and so cutting. So, Jen, work it out. This is a really intense exchange for me to get ready for the very next scene in which these idiotic women are in the Quiet Woman, which the maitre d' or the guy at the door knows them by name. Hey, Vicky. Hey, Tamara. Hey, Shannon. Right over here. And Tamara gets there first. Vicky's like, listen, man, be fucking cool. Be cool. Don't go all Tamara on us. Tamara rehearses her lines a little bit. And then when Shannon does come in, dressing like Wednesday Addams, but, 40 years later, there's a real awkward silence. They just sit around and it's like, okay, well, and you could hear Vicky like coughing, and we get the whole trope. I want to move forward and get along, which for a real in-depth discussion of reality tropes and archetypes in which the Real Housewives of the OC almost formulated, pretty much created as the Alfred Hitchcock of the Bravo universe, go listen to last week's recap of the show. But Tamara's really ready to sweep it under the rug. Like, okay, fine, it's fine. We're cool. And Shannon's like, yo, 1 month ago, you told me I was drunk, broke, and could never get a man. And now here we are talking about moving forward, which harsh. Okay, sure, but not new news. This is not Tamara's first line of defense, a line of attack, I should say, on Shannon, that like either toughen up, Shannon, or chuck this friendship in the garbage. There are plenty other women on this cast who will film with you. There's plenty more places you can fall down and show us your ass or have your nipple pop out or have your extension work its way out, whatever. Chuck it. Because like they're saying on TikTok, when these women post these videos of their terrible, awful, no good, horrible men, in the comments, they'll say, leave him or leave us out of it. And that's what I say to Tamara or Shannon. Leave this relationship or leave us the fuck out of it. Oh, but we did get a trailer right here for the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip, and it's looking really exciting. So I just wanted another plug for our show that we're doing. Vicky's an okay mediator. Yeah. I mean, I assume in the insurance world as a broker between a middle person between companies and individuals and consumers, that she's gotten some experience. And so Tamara is the kind of fighter who does a whataboutism, and Vicky kind of holds her feet to the fire here. So Shannon's like, what about last month when you said blah, blah, blah? And before Shannon could even finish that thought, Tamara's like, well, what about, how did it make me feel when blah, blah, blah? And Vicky's like, wait, let's hold on. Let's just let it finish. So Tamara lets her finish, but then just repeats that same sentence once Shannon gets finished. So how much of it goes in Tamara's brain and absorbs, and she can transfer that knowledge to the next altercation or the minute that Shannon gets out of earshot, for that matter. But Shannon doesn't do herself any favors when she tells that story about Emily saying that Tamara made that joke where she was like, yeah, well, now I can take you to places. Now you'll get invited to places, which Tamara claims is a joke. Y'all, hear me now. Hear me loud. When someone says something mean to you and then tries to retract it as a joke, it ain't a joke. It ain't a joke. That is a way to absolve them of any sort of consequence about it. And it is a way for Tamara to wiggle out of this confrontation. Because do we really think that this is the last time that Tamara's going to say something nasty or hurtful or really below the belt about any of these women? No, I do not. But, Vicky says this, and I really like this idea too. I mean, I don't want to be a Vicky stand this season, but maybe I am, because she talks about how her girlfriends are sacred, which her previous actions have maybe disputed that. But from a person who has a beautiful, wonderful ladies group who I adore and who have propped me up in some of my absolute darkest days, who have held me down when I was vibrating out of my skin, like, I appreciate this. And I think Vicky also understands which side of her Bravo butter is buttered on. No. Which side of her Bravo toast is buttered on. And it is advantageous for all three of these women to get back together to be on screen. I mean, right? Do you think so? Or are they too insufferable for us to figure out? I don't know. But Tamara apologizes and wants them to just be in a good place. And, Tamara not really beating the allegations of being this callous little mean girl. And she's like, God, you just hang on to everything. You people hang on to everything. Now, how do you think that's going to get repeated back to Emily? Just play that out in your head. But that's about where we leave it for episode 3. And so next time it looks like Vicky, ever crossing boundaries, wants Michael, her son, not her boyfriend, to freeze his sperm, possibly. Carmela gets activated, is mad at somebody, and another trope that we didn't talk about last week, but I can talk about here is the mean, provocative game that goes wrong. Think Heather from Salt Lake saying, hey, go on your phone and read the last mean thing that you said about the person across from you. Or what's her head from Miami saying, who do you trust the most? Or pulling, or even Mormon housewives writing anonymous notes and pulling them out and reading them. So this is a trope that is meant to disrupt, is meant to rattle these women, and it typically does. But of course, surprise to absolutely no one, it goes wrong. So I am going to keep watching. I think I might even do like a reality roundup or maybe a Housewives Corner, because Real Housewives of London is out now, and they just taped the finale for New Jersey. I would really like to watch that. Believe that Potomac is about to start filming too. So there's a lot going on, and I watch all of these shows. Y'all can laugh at you all, but if you're listening, you probably watch a ton of the shows too. So I am unashamed to admit the extent of my involvement in this universe. So I think I am going to do it. So if there's something you guys want me to cover, and remember, it's just me, I might get Jeff or Emily to drop in here and there every now and then, or maybe get some guests. If anybody wants to come chit chat with me, if you're a big fan, hit me up, Sundi at Pinopod. But what do you guys want to see? Is there something that I'm missing out there? I talked a little bit about Ultimatum and Married at First Sight on our mega mini crossover yesterday too. So you can go back and listen to that. But the last half of MAFS dropped yesterday. So that's always on my radar. So yeah, so give me a shout. Tell me what you want. Make sure that you're going into anywhere you get your podcast and rating us and leaving us a review. And you can just even in the review say, hey, I wish you would cover X, Y, and Z, or hey, I really liked it when you covered blah, blah, blah. So that being the case, also find us on social media. I do a very mediocre job over there, but everywhere it's at Take a Pinopod. And I really hope that you guys keep coming back for my Housewives Corner. See you next time.